The air hung thick with the stench of blood and burning wood. The crimson sunset painted the ravaged fields of the kingdom of Eldoria in hues of death and despair. Sir Silas, or Cyrus, as he was known throughout the land, stood amidst the carnage, his once gleaming armor now dulled and stained, a testament to the brutal Orcish onslaught. His sword, usually a blur of lethal grace, lay discarded, its edge chipped and dented, a mirror to his own weariness. Around him, the remnants of Eldoria's defense lay scattered broken shields, shattered spears, and the lifeless bodies of men and women, their faces frozen in expressions of terror and defiance. Cyrus felt the familiar ache in his chest, a hollow echo of the countless losses he'd endured in this endless war. Each fallen soldier was a name, a face, a life extinguished by the relentless tide of green-skinned savagery. The Orcish hordes, led by the notorious warlord Gruck, had descended upon Eldoria with brutal efficiency. Their war cries a symphony of destruction. The kingdom, once a beacon of prosperity, now lay in ruins, a charred testament to the unending conflict that plagued the land of Thalmia. He watched as a lone Orcish warrior, his face a mask of grim determination, hacked at a fallen soldier, his crude axe cleaving through bone and flesh with sickening ease. Cyrus's hand instinctively went to the hilt of his discarded sword, the urge to retaliate a burning ember in his soul. But he knew, with a weary resignation, that it was futile. This battle was lost. Another grim notch in the long and bloody tally of the war. The orcs, despite their brutality, were effective fighters. Their numbers overwhelmed any organized defense, and their ferocity was unmatched. Yet, even amidst the despair, there was a flicker of something different in Grook's eyes. Cyrus had seen him before. During fleeting moments in previous battles, he was a beast, certainly a whirlwind of rage and violence. It was a pragmatism, a chilling awareness of the cost of war. Even for a victor, Gruck wasn't interested in senseless slaughter. He was interested in survival. And this war, while brutal, was proving costly for both sides. Suddenly, a blinding emerald light erupted from the horizon, illuminating the battlefield with an unearthly glow. It was an impossible light, radiating with a power that dwarfed even the fury of the battle. The clash of steel and the roar of battle ceased. The orcs froze, their axes raised mid. Cyrus, along with the remaining human soldiers, instinctively shielded their eyes from the radiant intensity. The emerald light pulsed, growing brighter and softer, casting long, emerald shadows that danced and writhed like living things across the ravaged landscape. The light was breathtaking, mesmerizing in its otherworldly power. It washed over the battlefield, a wave of ethereal energy that seemed to cleanse the very air itself. The blood-soaked earth shimmered, and for a fleeting moment, a profound silence settled over the scene. A silence broken only by the soft whisper of the wind sighing through the ruined buildings. As the light subsided, a figure emerged from its heart. He was tall and imposing, clothed in flowing robes, the color of jade and emerald, his face obscured by a cowl that cast his features in shadow. A palpable aura of power emanated from him, a tangible force that filled the air with an unnerving sense of awe and dread. This was Valian, the mage, whose arrival had shattered the brutal dance of war and promised a destiny none of them could yet foresee. Gruck, his gaze fixed on Valian, lowered his axe. The other orcs followed suit, their aggression replaced by a stunned silence. Even Cyrus felt a palpable shift in the atmosphere, a sense that this was more than just a break in the fighting. It was the start of something utterly transformative. The emerald light and the enigmatic figure that it had birthed hinted at a power far greater than any earthly weapon. It foreshadowed a future shrouded in both hope and uncertainty. A future that would depend on the decisions made in the moments and days to come. The emerald glow lingered in the air, casting an ethereal light upon the ravaged battlefield. The human and Orcish warriors stood frozen, their eyes fixed upon Vale, the powerful mage whose arrival had disrupted the flow of war. The silence was punctuated only by the whimpers of the wounded and the crackling of the dying embers of the burning village. The battle had ended abruptly, replaced by an unnerving stillness that spoke of an unforeseen future. Cyrus felt a cold dread creep up his spine. This was no ordinary interruption. This was a shift in the fabric of reality. He watched as Valion slowly raised his hands, and a wave of shimmering emerald energy rippled through the battlefield, gently lifting the bodies of the fallen and laying them to rest with an impossible delicacy. The energy seemed to soothe the earth, mending the scars of the conflict. The tension remained thick in the air, a palpable weight that pressed upon the survivors. The emerald glow began to fade, and yet the impact of Valion's arrival lingered. The silence was heavy, pregnant with the weight of unspoken questions and the palpable sense of an impending shift in the power dynamics of Thalmia. The unlikely alliance that was about to form began with this moment of surreal stillness. The battle was over. A new chapter had begun. The emerald light pulsed, a heartbeat of pure magic against the backdrop of death and destruction. It swelled, encompassing the entire battlefield in its incandescent embrace, before slowly receding, leaving behind an eerie, shimmering afterglow that painted the ravaged landscape in unnatural hues. From the heart of this celestial display, a figure emerged. He was tall, his form almost ethereal, clad in robes the color of a spring meadow, interwoven with threads that shimmered with an inner light. His face, though partially obscured by a deep hood, held an enigmatic quality, radiating an aura of immense power that seemed to press upon the very air itself. This was Valion, the mage prophesied to unite Thalmia, the savior whose arrival had shattered the brutal stalemate of war. The reaction to his appearance was as varied as the races gathered on the blood-soaked earth. The remaining human soldiers, their faces etched with the weariness of endless conflict, stared in awestruck silence. Cyrus, despite his battle-hardened heart, felt a tremor of something akin to reverence. This was not the power of mere mortal men, but something ancient, something magical. He'd heard whispers of Valion, legends spoken in hushed tones in taverns and around crackling fires, tales of a mage of unimaginable power, a being who walked the line between the mortal and the divine. Now, he witnessed the reality of those whispered legends. The orcs, Gruk at their forefront, remained frozen, their weapons lowered, their ferocity, that untamed savagery that had carved a path of destruction across seemed to have been extinguished by the sheer presence of the mage. Gruk, however, despite his apparent stillness, revealed a subtle shift in his posture. His eyes, usually burning with a primal rage, now held a flicker of something akin to curiosity. Even the brutality of Gruk couldn't ignore the magnitude of this event. He had seen death and destruction in abundance, but nothing like this. From the distant fringes of the battlefield, a group of high elves emerged from the shadows of the ravaged trees. Their movements were elegant, even graceful, yet their expressions held a guarded wariness. The elves, guardians of ancient knowledge and magic, were cautious creatures. They studied Valion with keen, assessing eyes, their expressions betraying a mixture of awe and apprehension. The elves sensed the potent magic radiating from the newcomer, a power as old as their own civilization. They had long held themselves apart from the affairs of humans and orcs. Yet the magnitude of Valiant's arrival stirred within them a curiosity so potent that it overcame their ingrained suspicion. Meanwhile, a company of mountain dwarves, their stout forms clad in heavily reinforced armor, emerged from behind a crumbling stone wall. Their faces, usually marked by stoic determination, reflected a stunned silence. They were a practical people, more attuned to the strength of their axes and the resilience of their fortifications than to the subtleties of arcane magic. Yet, even the dwarves could not deny the raw power emanating from Valian. The earth itself seemed to hum beneath his presence. The dwarves' gaze settled upon Valian. There, Lyra, the elven seer, stepped forward, her movements as fluid and silent as the falling leaves of autumn. She was a vision of ethereal beauty, her silver hair cascading down her back like a shimmering waterfall, her eyes the color of a twilight sky, holding a depth that seemed to contain the wisdom of ages. Yet, a weariness clung to her, a shadow that darkened the corners of her usually radiant face. The weight of her prophecies, the burden of foreseeing the doom that threatened Thalmia, etched lines of worry onto her otherwise flawless features. She carried herself with the quiet dignity of one who had witnessed centuries unfold, a living testament to the enduring strength of her people. Her attire, a flowing gown of woven moonlight and starlight, was simple yet elegant, reflecting the understated grace of the high elves. In her hands, she held a staff intricately carved from ancient wood, its surface adorned with glowing runes that pulsed with a soft inner light. This was no mere walking stick. It was a conduit of her magic, a link to the ancient power that flowed through her veins. As she began to speak, her voice, like the chime of distant bells, resonated with an otherworldly quality. It was not loud, but it held an undeniable power, silencing the murmuring of the assembled heroes and drawing their attention to her every word. The Emerald Dawn has brought a glimmer of hope, she began, her gaze sweeping over the assembled faces of Cyrus, Grok, the dwarven runesmith Borp, the goblin, trickster Pip, and Valion himself. But hope, my friends, is a fragile thing, easily extinguished by the winds of fate. Her words painted a vivid tapestry of visions, swirling images that unfolded before the minds of her listeners. They saw the once fertile lands of Thamir, consumed by a creeping darkness, the rivers turning black, and the very air thick with a miasma of despair. They witnessed the rise of a terrifying entity, a colossal avatar of war, its form monstrous and horrifying, its shadows stretching across the land, engulfing all in its path. This was not a mere battle. It was the death throes of a world, the final act of a long and brutal conflict. Lyra's visions were not simply glimpses of a future. They were visceral experiences, a journey into the heart of darkness itself. The heroes saw the despair in the eyes of the fallen, the screams of the dying echoing in their ears, and the crushing weight of defeat pressing upon their very souls. It was a terrifying display of the potential destruction awaiting them, a brutal reminder of the stakes involved in their upcoming quest. But alongside the terrifying visions of doom, Lyra also revealed glimpses of hope, pockets of light that pierced through the encroaching darkness. She showed them images of unlikely alliances forging, of friendships blooming amidst the ashes of war. She showed them moments of bravery, of sacrifice, of individuals rising above their prejudices and fighting for a future that seemed beyond their reach. These glimpses of hope were interspersed with the harrowing visions of destruction, creating a haunting and unforgettable spectacle that emphasized the precarious balance between triumph and annihilation, of political maneuvering, betrayal amongst their ranks, and the overwhelming power of the enemy itself. Yet, She balanced this with a profound hope. The weight of the seer's prophecy settled heavily upon the hero. The looming doom, the internal struggles, the sheer magnitude of the quest, it all threatened to overwhelm them. But woven within the tapestry of impending disaster, Lyra had also shown them flashes of resilience, of courage, of unity. It was a prophecy of despair and hope, a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of unlikely alliances to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. The Emerald Dawn had begun. The true test, however, was yet to come. Borin, his beard a swirling river of gray and silver, tapped a gnarled finger against a crudely drawn map etched onto a slab of polished obsidian. The map depicted Thamir, not as it was now, scarred and blighted, but as it once had been, a land bathed in the golden light of a benevolent sun, its rivers flowing freely, its forests teeming with life. The obsidian gleamed faintly, reflecting the firelight that danced in the cavern's depths. Illuminating the intricate detail of the map, he looked up, his eyes, the color of molten gold, fixed on the assembled heroes. "This," he rumbled, his voice deep and resonant, like the echoing toll of a distant mountain bell, "is not merely a map. It is a chronicle, carved into stone and etched in time. It tells of a world far older than any of you can comprehend, a world where magic flowed freely, untainted by the shadow that now claws at our very souls." He gestured to a specific point on the map, a small, almost insignificant symbol nestled amongst the winding rivers and towering mountains. "Here," he declared, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "lies the heart of the matter, the resting place of the Spear of Val." Borin's words were deliberate, laden with the weight of centuries. He spoke not only of geography, but of history, of battles fought and lost, of alliances forged and shattered. He recounted legends whispered in the deep mines, tales passed down through generations of dwarven runesmiths, tales that spoke of a time when the world was in perfect balance, a harmony maintained by the Order of the Verdant Flame and defended by the Spear of Valrak itself. "The spear," Borin explained, his voice laced with a reverence that bordered on awe, "was not merely a weapon. It was a conduit, a vessel of immense power, forged in the heart of a dying star. Its runes, crafted by my ancestors, were not merely decorative. They were spells, enchantments designed to contain, to channel, and, if need be, to unleash the raw energy that pulsed within it." He paused, his gaze drifting to the staff Lyra held, her own runes subtly mirroring the ancient dwarven script. "The runes, you see, are the key. They speak to the very essence of the spear, its purpose, its potential for both creation and destruction." He described the runes in painstaking detail. Each symbol, he explained, represented a facet of the power contained within the spear, a complex tapestry of energies woven together to create a weapon of unparalleled might. There were runes of protection, runes of destruction, runes of healing, and runes of binding. A delicate balance meticulously crafted by generations of dwarven runesmiths. Borin even spoke of runes that seemed to defy comprehension, symbols so ancient and arcane that their very meaning was lost to time. Yet their power undeniably felt. Borin's description of the runes was not merely an academic exercise. It was a testament to the dwarves' profound connection to the earth, to their intimate understanding of the raw power that flowed beneath the surface of the world. They were not merely miners. They were artisans, sculptors of the earth, interpreters of its secrets. Their craftsmanship, emphasized, was sacred art, a legacy passed down through the ages, a link between the living world and the ancient energies that shaped it. He spoke of the Order of the Verdant Flame, not as mere legends, but as craftsmen of magic, wielders of raw power and keepers of balance. equals in many ways to his own people. They were a brotherhood of mages, ancient and powerful, who had guarded the spear for eons, wielding its power to maintain the equilibrium of the myth. The dwarves had long worked alongside them, crafting the weapons and tools they required, understanding the delicate dance between creation and destruction that lay at the heart of their magic. Their collaboration wasn't simply one of crafting. It was a deep understanding of the natural laws that governed their world. Dwarves brought their knowledge of the earth, their understanding of the materials and the balance of nature from which the mages drew their power. The mages understood the balance of nature and how it could be enhanced through the use of their power, and the dwarf crafted tools. This alliance had lasted for centuries, a testament to their mutual respect and the shared goal of maintaining balance in Thalmia. But this harmony, Borin lamented, had been shattered. The malevolent force Lyra had spoken of, a creeping darkness that had begun to consume the land, had not sprung up spontaneously. It was the result of a long and brutal conflict, an ancient war between the Order and a being of immense power. The dwarven runesmith described it not as a mere creature, but as an embodiment of entropy and chaos itself. An ancient evil awakened from a slumber it should never have left. Borin's account of this ancient conflict revealed a shocking truth. The Spear of Valrak was not just a weapon of defense. It was also a weapon of creation. The ancient runes, he explained, held the potential to not only banish the darkness, but also to heal the land, to restore Thamir to its former glory. However, the runes were also a double-edged sword. Their power was so immense that using them incorrectly could unleash a destructive force far greater than the darkness they were meant to combat. The dwarven runesmith spoke of intricate rituals, of specific alignments of the stars and the earth, of ancient incantations that needed to be recited with perfect precision. He explained how even the slightest deviation could lead to disastrous consequences, unleashing the spear's destructive power upon Thalmia, potentially making the situation far worse than it already was. The quest for the spear was not just a quest to retrieve a powerful weapon. It was a quest for knowledge, for an understanding of the ancient mysteries that had been lost to time. The runes held the secrets only the dwarves and the extinct Order of the Verdant Flame truly understood. Borin concluded his account with a heavy sigh. The weight of his words, the gravity of his revelations, hung heavy in the air. He spoke of the dwarves' role in this quest, not just as providers of supplies and arms, but as custodians of knowledge, as keepers of the ancient wisdom that held the key to understanding the spear and unlocking its full potential. Their connection to the earth, he argued, gave them a unique advantage. The deep mines, the ancient forges, these were not merely places of extraction, but portals into the very heart of Thalmia's energy, a source of knowledge to those who were patient enough to listen. The weight of the prophecy pressed down on the assembled heroes. Lyra's visions of doom and destruction, now augmented by Borin's historical account, revealed the true scope of their task. They were not merely facing a war, they were confronting a legacy, a conflict that stretched back through centuries. A battle fought not only with swords and spells, but with knowledge and understanding. Their success did not rest solely on bravery and skill, but on their ability to piece together the fragments of a shattered past, to decipher the mysteries of the Spear of Valrak, and to understand the ancient dance between creation and destruction. The Emerald Dawn had brought hope, but it had also revealed the immensity of the challenge that lay ahead. The path to salvation was not merely a physical journey. It was a quest for knowledge, a journey into the heart of the earth, and a confrontation with the shadows of the past. The fire crackled merrily, casting dancing shadows across the cavern walls as Borin finished his grim but compelling narrative. A silence, heavy with the weight of centuries and the imminence of impending doom, descended upon the assembled heroes. Lyra, her face pale but resolute, clutched her staff, the runes glowing faintly in the firelight. Even the stoic dwarven warriors shifted uncomfortably, their usual impassivity momentarily broken by the sheer magnitude of the task ahead. Then, a raspy cough broke the silence. From the deepest recesses of the cavern, a creature emerged, its silhouette initially obscured by the swirling smoke. It was small, barely taller than Lyra's knee, with skin the color of dried mud, and eyes that glittered with an unsettling intelligence. Its ears were oversized, pointed like a fox's, and its grin revealed a set of surprisingly sharp teeth. This was Gribble, the goblin trickster, a creature whose reputation for cunning and deceit preceded him like a foul stench. Gribble shuffled forward, his movements jerky and almost comical, clutching a rusty dagger that looked far too small for even his diminutive hands. He eyed the assembled heroes with a mixture of suspicion and unconcealed greed. "So," he squeaked, his voice surprisingly high-pitched, "the great heroes of Thalmia are gathered, planning to save the world. Sounds ambitious." He let out a cackle, a sound like nails on a chalkboard. Lyra, ever the pragmatist, spoke first. "We need your help, Gribble. Your knowledge of the mountains is unmatched. We need to reach the Spear of Valrak before the darkness consumes us all." Gribble's eyes narrowed. "My help, and what's in it for me?" Borin, ever the practical dwarf, sighed. He'd expected some haggling. "We offer you safe passage, food, and a share of any treasure we recover." Gribble considered this for a long moment, his eyes darting from one hero to another. He appeared to be calculating the odds, weighing the risks against potential rewards with unnerving speed. He tapped a long, dirty finger against his chin. "Safe passage sounds Borin. Food. I prefer something a bit more substantial, and a share of the treasure." How substantial a share are we talking about? A tense silence followed Gribble's question. Lyra, understanding the necessity of compromise, spoke again. "A fair share more than you would likely find on your own." "Oh, I'll find something," Gribble mumbled confidently. "I always do." His eyes twinkled mischievously. "But a guaranteed share. That does sound rather tempting." He paused, as if weighing his options one last time. "And what about the dangers? The monsters? The traps? Are you sure this is safe passage?" he uttered with a skepticism that was hard to ignore. Borin chuckled, a low rumble in his chest. "Safe passage isn't a guarantee, even with the best maps. The connection to the earth," he argued, "gave them a unique advantage. The deep mines, the ancient forges, these were not merely places of extraction, but portals into the very heart of Thalmia's energy, a source of knowledge to those who were patient enough to listen." The weight of the prophecy pressed down on the assembled heroes. Lyra's visions of doom and destruction, now augmented by Borin's historical account, revealed the true scope of their task. They were not merely facing a war, they were confronting a legacy, a conflict that stretched back through centuries, a battle fought not only with swords and spells, but with knowledge and understanding. Their success did not rest solely on bravery and skill, but on their ability to piece together the fragments of a shattered past, to decipher the mysteries of the Spear of Valrak, and to understand the ancient dance between creation and destruction. The Emerald Dawn had brought hope, but it had also revealed the immensity of the challenge that lay ahead. The path to salvation was not merely a physical journey. It was a quest for knowledge, a journey into the heart of the earth, and a confrontation with the shadows of the past. The first rays of dawn painted the cavern mouth in hues of rose and gold, illuminating the path ahead. A path that wound its way across the Whispering Moors. A name that spoke of both beauty and peril. The air hung heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying vegetation, a miasma that clung to the travelers like a shroud. Before them stretched a vast expanse of bog and mire, broken only by the occasional gnarled tree or rocky out, the whole landscape shrouded in a perpetual mist that whispered secrets on the wind. Gribble, ever the pragmatist, despite his goblin nature, was the first to speak, his voice a grating counterpoint to the eerie stillness of the moors. "Well, heroes," he squeaked, "here's where the fun begins." He gestured towards the treacherous terrain with a flourish of his rusty dagger. The Whispering Moors, they whisper tales of lost souls, treacherous bogs, and creatures that would make a troll blush. Lyra, ever vigilant, scanned the horizon. "Gribble, what specific dangers should we expect?" Gribble chuckled, a sound like pebbles rattling in a tin can. "Oh, the usual suspect. Willow wisps that lead you astray, bug beasts with a penchant for unsuspecting travelers, and the occasional grumpy sprigged who doesn't appreciate uninvited guests." He paused, his eyes glinting mischievously. "And let's not forget the Whispering Mire itself. One wrong step, and you'll be swallowed whole, never to be seen again." Cyrus, the seasoned warrior, his armor gleaming faintly in the weak light, stepped forward. "We will proceed in a standard formation. Borin and Lyra will take point, providing magical support and scouting ahead. Gribble, you'll flank the right, using your knowledge of the terrain to anticipate ambushes and avoid pitfalls. Gruck and I will bring up the rear, safeguarding our retreat." Gruck, the Osish warrior, grunted his approval. His massive frame, clad in crude but effective armor, dwarfed the others. His large, scarred face was set in a grim expression, and he carried a massive warhammer that looked capable of shattering mountains. He cared little for strategy, preferring brutal force to finesse. Their journey began slowly, each step measured and cautious. The ground beneath their feet was treacherous, shifting and unstable, threatening to swallow them whole. The mist swirled around them, obscuring their vision and heightening the sense of unease. The whispering sounds, faint at first, grew stronger as they ventured deeper into the moors, a chorus of rustling leaves, groaning branches, and the slithering of unseen creatures. Borin, with his dwarven resilience and uncanny ability to sense hidden danger, proved invaluable. His keen eyes spotted the faintest of trails through the mire, avoiding hidden pitfalls and pockets of quicksand that threatened to trap the unwary. Lyra's magic provided illumination and protection, her spells dispelling the dense mist and warding off the more aggressive creatures that dared to approach. Their first encounter was with a pack of will-o-wisps, eerie, glowing lights that danced and flitted through the air. Gribble, with his uncanny knowledge of goblin tricks, recognized them immediately. "Those are mischievous spirits," it whispered. "They love to lure travelers to their doom. Don't follow them." Cyrus, ever the pragmatist, instructed his men to keep their focus, to ignore the alluring lights and maintain the formation, a testament to his steadfast military training. Ignoring the beckoning lights, the group pressed on, their disciplined movement a sharp contrast to the chaotic dance of the will-o-wisps. Their next encounter was far more perilous. A hulking bog beast, its form partially obscured by the mist, emerged from the murky depths, its eyes gleaming with predatory intent. Its hide was the color of decaying vegetation, and its massive jaws were lined with razor-sharp teeth. It roared, a sound that shook the very earth beneath their feet. Gruck, eager for a fight, charged forward with a war cry, his warhammer smashing against the beast's tough hide. His brute strength proved initially effective, causing the beast to stagger but not fall. The beast retaliated, its claws slashing, and its powerful jaws snapping. Cyrus stepped in, his sword flashing, using his years of military training to expertly deflect the beast's attacks. Lyra unleashed a volley of spells, her magic searing the beast's flesh and weakening its attacks. Borin, ever watchful, provided cover, his spells protecting the group from the beast's savage attacks and shielding them from stray blows. Gribba, meanwhile, remained strategically positioned, his quick wit and nimble feet allowing him to keep a close watch on their flanks. He found opportunity to trip the beast, using the rough terrain, providing the group a crucial advantage. The battle was hard-fought, a brutal exchange of blows and spells. The beast was strong, tenacious, and relentless, but the combined strength and skill of the heroes proved too much. The heroes were victorious, but battered and bruised. The passage through the Whispering Moors tested their newfound alliance. Cyrus's rigid military discipline clashed with Groot's raw, uncontrolled power, but both were slowly becoming aware of each other's strengths and weaknesses, learning to rely on their teammates. Lyra and Borin, through their precise use of magic and Gribble's unconventional, yet insightful knowledge, proved that cooperation and versatility were as powerful, if not more powerful, than brute force. As dusk settled, casting long, eerie shadows across the moors, the group found a sheltered outcrop of rock to spend the night. The fire crackled merrily, casting a warm glow on their weary faces. They shared their meager rations, the silence broken only by the crackling of the fire and the whispering wind. The day's events had not only tested their strength, but also their unity. They had overcome adversity, not through individual prowess alone, but through mutual trust and combined efforts. They'd come to realize that even a goblin's seemingly unorthodox assistance was a crucial factor in their success. Their journey across the Whispering Moors had only just begun, but the seeds of true unity and collaboration had been sown, preparing them for the greater challenges that lay ahead. The whispers of the Moors seemed to fade into a low hum, the harmony of a group slowly learning to work together to face a shared and terrible threat. The night was calm, but their journey to the Spear of Valrek was far from over. The Whispering Moors yielded to the Shadow a transition marked not by a clear boundary, but a gradual darkening of the landscape. The mist, once a veil of ethereal beauty, thickened into a palpable gloom, heavy with the stench of decay and stagnant water. Giant, gnarled cypress trees, their branches draped with Spanish moss, like the tattered shrouds of drowned souls, clawed at the bruised sky. The air itself seemed to vibrate with a malevolent energy, a tangible sense of dread that settled upon the travelers like a shroud. The whispers of the Moors were replaced by a low, guttural humming, a symphony of unseen horrors. Cyrus, ever vigilant, adjusted his position at the rear. He had sensed a shift in the atmosphere, a change that went beyond the simple transition from moor to swamp. This was a place of ancient evil, a festering wound upon the land. He exchanged a look with Gruck, whose usually impassive face was etched with a rare expression of unease. Even Gruck, with his penchant for violence, felt the oppressive weight of the Shadowfawn's malevolent. Borin, his dwarven senses acutely attuned to the subtle vibrations of the earth, warned of unstable ground ahead. Careful now, he rasped, his voice strained. The ground here is treacherous, more than just bog. This is a shifting labyrinth of mud and mire. infused with dark magic. He pointed to a section of the swamp where the water seemed to boil and churn without reason, a swirling vortex of black muck. Lyra, her face pale, nodded in agreement. She felt it to a sinister energy that pulsed beneath their feet, threatening to pull them down into the abyss. Their progress became agonizingly slow. Each step required careful consideration, the unstable ground testing their balance and resolve. The silence was broken only by the occasional splash of an unseen creature in the murky water, the croaking of unseen amphibians, and the rustling of unseen things in the dense undergrowth. The oppressive atmosphere weighed heavily on their spirits, exacerbating the already present tension between Gruk and Cyrus. Yet, despite the growing unease, the unity forged in the Whispering Moors began to hold fast. Their first encounter was with a pack of shadow lurkers, grotesque, amphibious creatures with razor-sharp claws and eyes that glowed with an unnatural luminescence. They emerged from the murky water like phantoms, their movements swift and silent. The unexpected attack sent a ripple of panic through the group, but their training kicked in almost instinctively. Cyrus's command was crisp and clear, his years of military experience guiding their defense. Orin's protective spells deflected the lurkers' attacks, while Lyra's magic disoriented them. Gribble, surprisingly agile despite his size and lack of grace, managed to trip several of the creatures, causing them to tumble into the mire. Gruk, unleashing his warhammer with savage fury, finished off the remaining lurkers, sending them sinking back into the black depths of the swamp. The next challenge was more insidious. They stumbled upon a patch of shimmering water that looked deceptively calm. Lyra, instinctively sensing the danger, warned the group to avoid it. "It's a mirage," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the oppressive hum of the swamp. "A deceptive illusion, masking a pit of oblivion." Ignoring the deceptively calm appearance, the group carefully bypassed the seemingly placid pool, continuing their arduous journey through the shadows. They were constantly tested, facing challenges that required them to rely on each other's unique skills and experience. Gruk, initially skeptical of Cyrus's strategies, began to display a surprising level of tactical awareness. He learned to anticipate attacks, coordinating his brute force with the finesse of Cyrus's swordsmanship and Borin's magical defenses. Even Gribble, often underestimated for its goblin nature, proved to be an invaluable asset, using his knowledge of treacherous terrain to guide them around hidden dangers. One particularly harrowing encounter involved a massive, hulking mudcrawler, a creature of nightmare. Its massive body, a grotesque fusion of mud, vegetation, and something far more sinister. Its skin pulsed with a dark magic, and its eyes burned with a hateful intelligence. The mudcrawler's attack was brutal and relentless, its tentacles lashing out and its teeth gnashing. It was a battle of attrition, a test of their resolve and their unity. Cyrus's leadership was pushed to its limits, yet he maintained control. He adapted his strategies, recognizing that Grook's raw strength was valuable against the creature's heavy hide, while Lyra's spells proved effective in weakening the creature's defenses. Orin provided consistent magical support, shielding the group and hindering the mudcrawler's advance. Even Gribbly, seemingly insignificant against such a behemoth, played a crucial role. Using his knowledge of the swamp's volatile nature, he created unstable ground beneath the creature, causing it to falter and lose its balance. The battle was long and exhausting, pushing them to the very brink of defeat. They were bleeding, bruised, and exhausted, but they fought together, their individual strengths complementing each other. It was in this brutal, unrelenting struggle that their bond truly solidified. They fought not only for survival, but for each other, with a combined effort. A final, desperate blow from Gruk shattered the mud crawler's defenses, sending the massive creature collapsing into the swamp, its dark energy dissipating into the foul waters as the days bled into night. The group pressed onward, their resolve strengthened by their shared experience. The Shadowfun, despite its terrors, had forged a bond between them that was stronger than any magic. Cyrus, the rigid military leader, had learned to trust the instincts of Gruk and value the contributions of even the most unlikely allies. Gruk, the brute warrior, had discovered a tactical mind he never knew he possessed. Lyra's magical abilities grew in strength, guided by the unwavering resilience of Borin and Gribble. The nimble goblin proved time and again that even the most underestimated of allies could prove crucial in a life-or-death struggle. The Shadowfin's embrace, though terrifying, had ultimately strengthened their bond, forging a unity that would prove essential in the battles yet to come. The journey through the Shadowfin was over, but the true test of their unity lay ahead. The spear of Valrak awaited, and with it, the ultimate challenge. The first rays of dawn painted the cavern mouth in hues of rose and gold, illuminating the path ahead, a path that wound its way across the Whispering Moors. A name that spoke of both beauty and peril. The air hung heavy with a scent of damp earth and decaying vegetation, a miasma that clung to the travelers like a shroud. Before them stretched a vast expanse of bog and mire, broken only by the occasional gnarled tree or rocky outcrop. The whole landscape shrouded in a perpetual mist that whispered secrets on the wind. Gribble, ever the pragmatist, despite his goblin nature, was the first to speak, his voice a grating counterpoint to the eerie stillness of the moors. "Well, heroes," he squeaked, "here's where the fun begins." He gestured towards the treacherous terrain with a flourish of his rusty dagger. The Whispering Moors, they whisper tales of lost souls, treacherous bogs, and creatures that would make a troll blush. Lyra, ever vigilant, scanned the horizon. Gribble, what specific dangers should we expect? Gribble chuckled, a sound like pebbles rattling in a tin can. Oh, the usual suspects. Will-o-wisps that lead you astray. Bog beasts with a penchant for unsuspecting travelers, and the occasional grumpy Spridgeon who doesn't appreciate uninvited guests. He paused, his eyes glinting mischievously. And let's not forget the Whispering Mire itself. One wrong step and you'll be swallowed whole, never to be seen again. Cyrus, the seasoned warrior, his armor gleaming faintly in the weak light, stepped forward. "We will proceed in a standard formation. Borin and Lyra will take point, providing magical support and scouting ahead. Gribble, you'll flank the right, using your knowledge of the terrain to anticipate ambushes and avoid pitfalls. Gruk and I will bring up the rear, safeguarding our retreat." Gruk, the Orcish warrior, grunted his approval. His massive frame, clad in crude but effective armor, dwarfed the others. His large, scarred face was set in a grim expression, and he carried a massive warhammer that looked capable of shattering mountains. He cared little for strategy, preferring brutal force to finesse. Their journey began slowly, each step measured and cautious. The ground beneath their feet was treacherous, shifting and unstable, threatening to swallow them whole. The mist swirled around them, obscuring their vision and heightening the sense of unease. The whispering sounds, faint at first, grew stronger as they ventured deeper into the moors. A chorus of rustling leaves, groaning branches, and the slithering of unseen creatures. Orin, with his dwarven resilience and uncanny ability to sense hidden danger, proved invaluable. His keen eyes spotted the faintest of trails through the mire, avoiding hidden pitfalls and pockets of quicksand that threatened to trap the unwary Luera's magic provided illumination. and protection, her spells dispelling the dense mist and warding off the more aggressive creatures that dared to approach. Their first encounter was with a pack of will-o-wisps, eerie glowing lights that danced and flitted through the air. Gribble, with his uncanny knowledge of goblin tricks, recognized them immediately. "Those are mischievous spirits," it whispered. "They love to lure travelers to their doom. Don't follow them." Cyrus, Heva the pragmatist, instructed his men to keep their focus, to ignore the alluring lights, and maintain the formation, a testament to his steadfast military training. Ignoring the beckoning lights, the group pressed on, their disciplined movement a sharp contrast to the chaotic dance of the will-o-wisps. Their next encounter was far more perilous. A hulking bog beast, its form partially obscured by the mist, emerged from the murky depths, its eyes gleaming with predatory intent. Its hide was the color of decaying vegetation, and its massive jaws were lined with razor-sharp teeth. It roared, a sound that shook the very earth beneath their feet. Gruck, eager for a fight, charged forward with a war cry, his warhammer smashing against the beast's tough hide. His brute strength proved initially effective, causing the beast to stagger, but not fall. The beast retaliated, its claws slashing, and its powerful jaws snapping. Cyrus stepped in, his sword flashing, using his years of military training to expertly deflect the beast's attacks. Lyra unleashed a volley of spells, her magic searing the beast's flesh and weakening its attacks. Borin, ever watchful, provided cover, his spells protecting the group from the beast's savage attacks and shielding them from stray blows. Gribble, meanwhile, remained strategically positioned, his quick wit and nimble feet allowing him to keep a close watch on their flanks. He found opportunity to trip the beast, using the rough terrain, providing the group a crucial advantage. The battle was hard-fought, a brutal exchange of blows and spells. The beast was strong, tenacious, and relentless, but the combined strength and skill of the heroes proved too much. Finally, with a final, desperate blow from Gruck, the beast collapsed, its massive form sinking back into the mire. The heroes were victorious, but battered and bruised. The passage through the Whispering Moors tested their newfound alliance. Cyrus's rigid military discipline clashed with Group's raw, uncontrolled power, but both were slowly becoming aware of each other's strengths and weaknesses, learning to rely on their teammates. Lyra and Borin, through their precise use of magic, and Gribble's unconventional, yet insightful knowledge, proved that cooperation and versatility were as powerful, if not more powerful, than brute force. As dusk settled, casting long, eerie shadows across the moors, the group found a small, sheltered outcrop of rock to spend the night. The fire crackled merrily, casting a warm glow on their weary faces. They shared their meager rations, a silent testament to the bond that was forming between them. The day's events had not only tested their strength, but also their unity. They had overcome adversity, not through individual prowess alone, but through mutual trust and combined efforts. They'd come to realize that even a goblin's seemingly unorthodox assistance was a crucial factor in their success. Their journey across the Whispering Moors had only just begun, but the seeds of true unity and collaboration had been sown, preparing them for the greater challenges that lay ahead. The whispers of the moors seemed to fade into a low hum, the harmony of a group slowly learning to work together to face a shared and terrible threat. The night was calm, but their journey to the Spear of Valrak was far from over. Emerging from the Shadowfan, the travelers found themselves confronted by a sight both bizarre and unsettling. Before them stretched a valley, dominated by a colossal mushroom-shaped structure, pulsating with an eerie, bioluminescent glow. Strange, gnarled trees, their branches adorned with phosphorescent fungi, ringed the structure, creating an otherworldly ambient. The air hummed with a discordant melody, a cacophony of chattering, squeaking, and guttural laughter. This was the Goblin King's domain, a realm as alien and unsettling as anything they had yet encountered. A delegation of goblins, their skin a patchwork of greens and browns, their eyes glittering with mischief and malice, emerged from the bizarre fungal city. They were a motley crew, some adorned with crude jewelry fashioned from bones and teeth, others clad in tattered scraps of leather and fur. Their leader, a goblin of imposing size for his kind, stepped forward. He was significantly taller and broader than his compatriots, his features sharper and more intelligent. He wore a crown of intricately woven spider silk, and his eyes, though small, burned with an unnerving intensity. This was the Goblin King. Melkor surveyed the group with a critical eye, his gaze lingering on each member in turn. He spoke in a surprisingly melodic voice, though his words carried a biting edge. "So, you trespass upon my domain, creatures of the outside world. You dare to traverse the lands of Melkor, king of the Gloomfang goblins, without proper tribute." Cyrus, ever the pragmatist, stepped forward. "We mean no offense, Your Majesty. We are simply travelers, seeking passage through your territory to reach the Spear of Valra." Melkor chuckled, a sound like dry leaves skittering across stone. The Spear of Valrek. A worthy goal even for such diverse company. But passage is not granted freely. Tribute must be paid. Gruk, ever impatient, bristled. "Tribute? What sort of tribute do you demand, you fungus-dwelling flea?" Melkor's eyes narrowed. "Patience, brute. My demands are not mere extortion. They are trials, tests of worthiness. Those who prove themselves worthy shall pass. Those who fail, well, let's just say the Gloomfang goblins have a fondness for roasted meat." Gribble surprisingly spoke up, his voice surprisingly calm and steady. "Your Majesty," he said, his eyes darting nervously, "I believe we can come to an understanding. I've known some of your kin in the past." Melkor's expression softened slightly. "Oh, is that so? And what knowledge do you possess that might assist in this matter, little one?" Gribble, emboldened, detailed his past interactions with various goblin tribes, showcasing his intimate knowledge of their customs and social hierarchy. He described how he had once helped a goblin clan settle a dispute, showcasing a surprising understanding of goblin diplomacy and negotiation skills. He even recounted a tale about how he had outsmarted a particularly grumpy goblin elder, winning a large bounty of trinkets and shiny objects through his cunning and wit. His stories, while exaggerated, spoke of a deeper understanding and connection than anyone else in the group possessed. Melkor, impressed by Gribble's seemingly unexpected diplomatic skills, smiled, a rare and unsettling sight. "Indeed, you seem to possess a surprising understanding of our kind. Very well. Your knowledge will be put to the test. If you succeed, your companions shall pass unharmed. If you fail," he trailed off, his gaze lingering on Gruk. "Well, then, we shall have a feast." The challenge set forth by the Goblin King involved a series of 3 trials: a test of wit, a test of strength, and a test of cunning. The first trial was a riddle, a complex and convoluted puzzle that tested the group's intellect and cooperation. The riddle, written in the ancient goblin tongue, spoke of a creature with 3 eyes and only 1 leg, with an answer that seemed to evade logic. Borin, with his vast knowledge of ancient languages and runes, was able to decipher the riddle. But solving the riddle required a deep understanding of the symbolism in the goblin language, a knowledge only Borin and Gribble, with his unique understanding of goblin culture, possessed. Their combined efforts yielded the answer: a 3-legged stool with an eye carved into each leg. The second trial was a test of strength, a competition of brute force against the Gloomfang goblin warriors. It was a challenge that heavily favored Grok, whose immense strength proved more than a match for even the strongest goblin warriors. However, the challenge required teamwork, Cyrus's strategic guidance, and Lyra's carefully placed magical traps proved just as vital to Grook's victory as his raw strength. The goblins, initially skeptical of the outsiders' contributions, were left in awe of the humans' tactics, finally recognizing that their enemies were not simply brute force, but a force to be reckoned with, one that required strategy, precision, and coordination. The final test proved to be the most challenging. It was a maze of mirrors, filled with illusions and traps that played upon the fears and prejudices held within the group. The labyrinth was a psychological test as much as a physical one, pushing their teamwork and their understanding of each other's strengths and vulnerabilities. Cyrus's military training allowed him to navigate the maze. Lyra's magic helped them to see through the illusions, and Borin's understanding of the goblin architecture assisted in locating the hidden passages. Yet, it was Gribble's subtle understanding of goblin psychology, his ability to perceive their anxieties and anticipate their next moves, that finally allowed the group to escape. Having successfully navigated the Goblin King's challenges, the travelers emerged triumphant, earning their passage through the Goblin King's territory. Melkor, though initially skeptical, was profoundly impressed. He had witnessed the strength and unity of this unlikely band, appreciating the unique contributions of each member and, above all, the strategic genius of Grib, whose insights had proven invaluable. He offered them gifts and safe passage, acknowledging that their journey in triumph reinforced his understanding that true strength lay not solely in brute force, but in the collaborative strength of a diverse team. Their journey through the Goblin King's domain was not just a physical passage. It was a testament to their growing unity and a profound recognition of the value of each individual's unique strengths, marking Gribble's true integration into their fellowship. The Spear of Valrak awaited, but the real test, the truest test of unity, was not the physical challenges ahead, but the ability to maintain the bond that had been forged in the crucible of adversity. Leaving the bizarre, bioluminescent city of the Gloomfang goblins behind, the group found themselves at the foot of a mountain range that seemed to claw at the very sky. This was the Mountain Pass of Despair, a name whispered with dread even amongst the hardy goblin tribes. The air grew noticeably colder, the vibrant colors of the Goblin Kingdom replaced by a stark, almost monochrome palette of grays and browns. Jagged peaks, their summits perpetually shrouded in swirling mists, loomed over them, their sheer size dwarfing even the most imposing structures of Melkor's domain. The ascent was brutal. The trail, barely more than a goat track in places, wound precariously through scree slopes and across precarious ledges. The biting wind whipped at their faces, carrying with it icy rain that seemed to penetrate to the bone. Gruk, despite his immense strength, found himself struggling against the unforgiving terrain, his usual boisterous confidence replaced by a grim determination. Lyra, her usually bright eyes clouded with concern, worked tirelessly to maintain their morale, weaving spells of warmth and protection around the group. Cyrus, ever the strategist, meticulously charted their course, his military experience proving invaluable in navigating the treacherous landscape. He pointed out potential dangers, hidden crevices, unstable rock faces, and the ever-present threat of rockfalls. His calm demeanor, even in the face of such adversity, was a constant source of reassurance for the others. Borin, his usual scholarly demeanor replaced by an intense focus, spent hours studying ancient maps and scrolls, searching for clues to help them navigate the most perilous sections of the pass. He deciphered cryptic inscriptions etched into ancient stones, revealing hidden passages and warning of potential dangers lurking ahead. But it wasn't just the physical challenges that tested the group's resolve. The harsh environment, coupled with the strain of their arduous journey, began to fray the bonds of their newfound camaraderie. The constant exposure to the elements, the hunger, and the fatigue all chipped away at their patience and resolve. Arguments flared, often sparked by petty disagreements over resource allocation and strategy. Gruck, exhausted and irritable, clashed repeatedly with Cyrus, whose strategic planning often clashed with Grook's more impulsive approach. Lyra, though trying to mediate, found her magic waning under the unrelenting strain, her efforts to maintain the group's morale becoming increasingly difficult. Gribble, surprisingly, proved to be a calming influence amidst the rising tensions. His seemingly innate understanding of human emotions and his calm demeanor, even under pressure, allowed him to act as a mediator, gently smoothing over the emerging conflict. He would offer words of encouragement, or simply a listening ear. He showed a remarkable understanding of the intricacies of human psychology, deftly addressing individual concerns and anxieties with diplomacy. He possessed a unique ability to connect with the emotional core of each person, often offering perspective and understanding where others failed. One particularly harrowing incident highlighted the growing strength of the group's bond. A sudden blizzard descended upon them without warning, engulfing the group in a swirling maelstrom of ice and snow. Visibility dropped to near zero, the wind howling like a banshee, threatening to tear them from the mountainside. Panic threatened to overwhelm them, but Cyrus, relying on his military training, quickly organized the group, ensuring they remained huddled together for warmth and protection. Lyra struggled to maintain her spells, her magic faltering under the immense pressure. Gruck, surprisingly, demonstrates its unexpected sensitivity, helping Lyra to conserve her strength, and even offering words of comfort and support. Borin, his knowledge of herbs and remedies proving vital, discovered a sheltered alcove where they could seek refuge, while Gribble's insightful observations of the wind patterns enabled them to anticipate the shifts in the storm's intensity. They huddled together, sharing rations, offering words of encouragement, and simply offering each other the solace of their presence. They shared stories and songs, recalling happier times, strengthening their resolve through a shared experience. The blizzard lasted 4 days, a relentless test of their resilience, but they endured their shared ordeal, forging a deeper bond of trust and mutual respect. As the storm finally subsided, they emerged from their sheltered alcove, weak but undeterred. The mountain path remained treacherous, but their resolve had been tempered in the crucible of adversity. They had faced not only the harsh realities of the natural world, but also the internal conflicts that threatened to tear them apart. They had overcome these challenges, not through brute force alone, but through their growing cooperation, their understanding of each other's strengths, and the unwavering support that had grown between them. Gribble, in particular, had shown a remarkable capacity for diplomacy and empathy, playing a crucial role in maintaining the group's unity. His seemingly effortless ability to diffuse tense situations, his willingness to listen and understand, proved invaluable in navigating the difficulties they had faced. It was a testament to the surprising strength they had found in diversity and collaboration. The final ascent was arduous, each step a testament to their resilience. They reached the summit just as the sun rose, painting the snow-capped peaks in hues of gold and rose. The view was breathtaking, a panorama of rolling hills and valleys stretching out before them, a reward for their perseverance. The mountain pass of despair, once a symbol of fear and adversity, now stood as a testament to their triumph over adversity, a testament to their growing unity, and a profound affirmation of the power of human resilience. Their journey was far from over. The spear of Valorak still lay ahead, but they had proven their worth, not just as individuals, but as a team united by their shared experiences and their unwavering commitment to their quest. They had faced the mountain, and the mountain had yielded. The path ahead remained uncertain, but they walked it together, a testament to the strength they had found in unity in overcoming adversity. The true test lay not in the challenges ahead, but in their ability to maintain this unity, a unity forged in the heart of the mountain pass of despair. Beyond the pass, the landscape transformed. The stark monochrome gave way to a richer palette, though the beauty was tinged with an unsettling stillness. Before them stretched a vast plain, its surface scarred by the passage of time and the ravages of some long-forgotten cataclysm. Scattered across the expanse were the remnants of a once great civilization. The ruins were not simply crumbled stones and weathered bricks. They were colossal structures, remnants of a power that defied imagination. Towers, once piercing the sky, now lay broken, and half their intricate carvings hinting at a sophistication far beyond anything they had witnessed in the Goblin Kingdom or amongst the bleak mountains they had just traversed. The air itself hummed with a low, resonant troom, a palpable sense of ancient energy that prickled their skin. Lyra, ever sensitive to magical currents, felt a shiver run down her spine. It wasn't an unpleasant feeling, but it was undeniably powerful, a testament to the immense power that had once flowed through these very stones. Cyrus, scanning the horizon with his practiced eye, noted the strategic placement of the ruins, the remnants of defensive walls and watchtowers, hinting at a civilization constantly vigilant against unseen threats. As he approached the closest structure, a colossal archway, its keystone still miraculously intact. Orin consulted his ancient maps. Eldoria, he murmured, his voice hushed with reverence. A city whispered about in legends, a place of great power and terrible secrets. The inscription on the archway, barely visible beneath layers of dust and decay, confirmed his identification. Its intricate script spoke of the verdant flame, an order of protectors whose very existence had been relegated to myth and legend. The archway was a gateway to a labyrinthine city, its streets a network of crumbling avenues and forgotten squares. Buildings, once resplendent palaces and temples, were now skeletal remains, their walls crumbling into dust with every tremor of the earth. Yet, amidst the decay, a strange beauty persisted. Gigantic statues, depicting figures of ethereal grace, stood sentinel, their features weathered but still bearing an expression of serene power. Intricate mosaics, depicting scenes of a bygone era, adorned the floors of ruined temples, their vibrant colors surprisingly preserved despite the passage of centuries. Their exploration of Eldoria was fraught with peril. Hidden traps, sprung by the unwitting touch, sent showers of darts and spells hurtling at them. Ancient guardians, animated by some residual magic, rose from the dust to challenge their intrusion. These were no mere animated statue. They moved with a frightening grace and speed, their movements precise and deadly. Kribbla's calm demeanor proved invaluable. His acute observations and understanding of the ruins' architecture helped him to anticipate and avoid many of the dangers. He spotted subtle shifts in the ground, imperceptible to the others, that hinted at hidden pressure plates and concealed pitfalls. His unique insight, which seemed to transcend simple observation, allowed them to navigate the treacherous landscape with a surprising degree of ease.
The air hung heavy with the scent of dust and decay, yet a strange, almost ethereal luminescence emanated from the chamber's depths. It was a vast cavern, its walls lined with shelves that stretched impossibly far into the shadows. This was no ordinary library. It pulsed with a faint magical energy, a silent hum that resonated deep within the bones. Borin, his eyes wide with wonder, was the first to break the silence. "By the ancestors," he breathed. He cautiously approached a shelf, running his hand along the spines of the books. Lyra felt a wave of power wash over her, an ancient, slumbering power both potent and peaceful. Gribble, his face etched with fascination, examined the structure of the shelves, his keen eyes searching for patterns and hidden mechanisms. Grook, despite his initial awe, remained vigilant, his eyes scanning the shadows constantly, alert for any sign of danger. Cyrus, ever the strategist, observed his companions, his mind already formulating a plan for their exploration. The library was not merely a collection of texts, it was a battlefield of knowledge, and he intended to conquer it with meticulous precision.
Borin, with the help of Gribble, began to carefully select texts, his ancient knowledge guiding his choices. The texts detailed the history of the Verdant Flame, not as simple warriors, but as powerful mages and guardians imbued with an ancient power, protectors of As Borin deciphered the ancient texts, a chilling narrative unfolded. The Spear of Valrak, far from being a simple weapon, was a conduit for the world's magical energies, capable of both creation and destruction. The scrolls detailed a dark entity, an ancient being of immense power, slumbering beneath the world, seeking to unleash chaos. A cataclysmic war, a conflict that had shattered Eldoria, was fueled by the misuse of the spear's power. The Verdant Flame had fought bravely, but they were ultimately betrayed by one of their own, a powerful mage who sought to harness the spear's power for his own selfish ambitions. The betrayal had unleashed the dark entity's wrath. The texts revealed the location of a hidden chamber where the Spear of Valrak had been concealed, shielded by powerful wards. The discovery deepened their understanding of the quest and the immense responsibility that rested upon their shoulders. As Borin pored over the final scrolls, he unearthed a cryptic riddle, a series of clues leading to the spear's hidden chamber. The riddle was not merely a puzzle. It was a test. The true challenge lay not in finding the spear, but in wielding its power responsibly, in restoring balance, and in preventing the catastrophe that threatened to engulf the world. The scrolls revealed a history far richer than they could have ever anticipated. The Order of the Verdant Flame were not mere warriors, but masters of arcane arts, deeply connected to the land itself. They were custodians of a fragile peace. Illustrations depicted their grueling initiation rites, a trial of not only physical strength but also the candidate's spiritual fortitude. Their history, however, was woven with threads of sacrifice and loss, a relentless struggle against forces of darkness. One particular scroll contained a harrowing account of a conflict against a powerful The battle lasted 4 months, a brutal war of attrition that left the Verdant Flame depleted and wounded. Despite the heavy losses, they managed to defeat the Necromancer, but the cost of victory was etched onto their history. The scrolls then depicted a period of relative peace, a time when the Verdant Flame focused on rebuilding, establishing sanctuaries throughout the land to heal, learn, and preserve their ancient knowledge. Internal conflicts arose, debates over how best to protect the world, which ultimately clarified their purpose. The climax of their history was a cataclysmic war against a force of pure chaos, an ancient evil that sought to unravel existence itself. The verdant flame fought with courage, but the odds were stacked against them. The betrayal was described in chilling detail. One of their own, a mage named Malkor, driven by ambition, sought to control the spear of Valrak. For his own gain, his betrayal unleashed the ancient evil's full fury, leading to the destruction of Eldor. The scrolls implied that Malkor himself was consumed by the very power he sought to control. The spear was a conduit for the world's magical energies. The verdant flame used it for harmony, but in Malkor's hands, it became an instrument of chaos. The library was a monument to their failure, yet within it lay the seeds of hope. The final scroll contained a cryptic riddle leading to the spear's hidden chamber, a final test of worthiness. Their quest had evolved from a simple treasure hunt to a desperate fight for the very survival of their world. This period, however, was not without its challenges. Internal conflicts arose, disagreements over strategy and tactics, testing the very foundations of their unity. Scrolls, detailed debates over how best to protect the world, discussions that highlighted the differing viewpoints and philosophies within the Order. These internal struggles, though painful, ultimately served to strengthen their resolve and clarify their purpose. The climax of their history was the cataclysmic war that led to their ultimate downfall. Dex described a devastating conflict that engulfed the land, a war that tested the limits of their strength and resilience. The enemy was not a single entity, but a force of pure chaos, an ancient evil that sought to unravel the fabric of existence itself. This entity was capable of unimaginable destruction, its power far exceeding anything the verdant flame had ever encountered. The scrolls detailed the bravery and sacrifice of the verdant flame, their unwavering commitment to defending the world against this overwhelming threat. They fought with courage and skill, but the odds were stacked heavily against them. The ancient evil's power rose immense, its influence corrupting the land itself. The verdant flame, despite their mastery over magic and their deep connection to the land, found themselves struggling against a force that seemed to defy all known defenses. The betrayal, a crucial element of their downfall, was described in chilling detail. One of their own, a mage named Melkor, driven by ambition and a lust for power, sought to control the spear of Valrak for his own selfish gain. He believed that harnessing its power would give him the strength to defeat the ancient evil, but his actions ultimately backfired. Malkor's betrayal not only weakened the verdant flame, but also unleashed the ancient evil's full fury, leading to the destruction of Eldoria and the scattering of the Order. The final scrolls contained fragmented accounts of Malkor's fate, implying that he too was consumed by the very power he sought to control. His story served as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the devastating consequences of betraying the trust placed upon one's shoulders. The scrolls didn't glorify him, but instead served as a solemn testament to the fragility of power and the importance of responsibility. The descriptions of the spear of Valrak itself evolved throughout the scrolls. It was depicted not as a mere weapon, but as a conduit, a focus for the world's magical energies, a powerful artifact capable of both incredible creation and devastating destruction. The verdant flame used it to maintain harmony, to channel the Earth's energies, and to protect the balance of the world. But in Melkor's hands, it became an instrument of chaos, a catalyst for the world's destruction. The library wasn't just a repository of knowledge. It was a monument to the verdant flames' struggle, their sacrifices, and their ultimate failure. Yet, within the fragments of their history lay the seeds of hope. The scrolls showed their deep understanding of the world's energies, their strategies, and their resilience. The texts revealed the weaknesses of the ancient evil, highlighting its vulnerabilities and suggesting paths to potential victory. The information wasn't merely historical, it was tactical, providing a blueprint for the group to follow. The final scroll contained a cryptic message, a riddle that led to the hidden chamber where the Spear of Valrak was concealed. It wasn't just a puzzle. It was a test, a final trial designed to evaluate the worthiness of those who sought to wield the spear's power. The riddle tested not only their intelligence and cunning, but also their understanding of the verdant flame's history, their commitment to restoring balance, and their resolve to prevent the catastrophe that threatened to engulf the world. Solving the riddle would pave the way for the final confrontation, the ultimate test of their worthiness to face the ancient evil and reclaim the balance of the world. The fate of the world, as they now fully understood, rested not only on finding the spear, but on their ability to use it responsibly and wisely. The weight of that responsibility settled heavily on their shoulders, a palpable burden that only deepened their resolve to succeed. Their quest had evolved from a simple treasure hunt to a desperate fight for the very survival of their world. The air in the hidden chamber crackled with an unseen energy, a palpable tension hanging heavy in the silence. Dust motes danced in a single beam of light, filtering through a crack in the ancient stone ceiling, illuminating the final scroll. Borin, Lyra, Gribble, Grok, and Cyrus gathered around, their faces etched with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. The weight of the world, quite literally, rested upon their shoulders. The previous scrolls had unveiled a history of struggle, sacrifice, and ultimate failure. But this final scroll promised something more. A path towards redemption. A chance to avert the looming catastrophe. Unfurling the parchment with trembling hands, Lyra began to read, her voice low and measured, each word carrying the weight of centuries. The prophecy, unlike the historical accounts of the verdant flame, was written not in the precise, meticulous script of scholars, but in a flowing, almost lyrical style, suggesting a different origin, a different voice. It spoke of an ancient evil, a primordial force of chaos and destruction known only as the Avatar of War, a being unbound by morality or empathy, its sole purpose to unravel the fabric of existence. This wasn't simply an ambitious sorcerer or a monstrous beast, but an entity of unimaginable power, a force that could obliterate their world without remorse. The prophecy detailed the Avatar's origins, hinting at a time before time, a realm of pure energy where chaos and order warred endlessly. It was from this primordial conflict that the Avatar emerged, a fragment of pure, unadulterated destruction, escaping its prison to wreak havoc upon the mortal realm. The scroll described its manifestation not as a terrifying physical entity, but as a pervasive, inescapable corruption, warping the land, twisting the minds of men, and poisoning the very essence of life itself. The Avatar's influence would spread like a plague, consuming all it touched, leaving behind only ruin and despair. But the prophecy wasn't purely a tale of doom and gloom. It also revealed the means to combat this immense threat, outlining a path toward victory that was both treacherous and fraught with Peril, the spear of Valrak, the object of their quest, wasn't merely a powerful weapon. It was a conduit, a key, a tool to channel the world's energy, to counter the Avatar's corrupting influence. However, the scroll clarified that wielding the spear was not enough. Only one who possessed a deep understanding of the Verdant Flame's history, their strengths, their weaknesses, and their ultimate downfall could truly harness its power. The scroll implicitly suggested that those who wielded the spear with arrogance or selfishness would simply become another pawn in the Avatar's game. The prophecy further unveiled the importance of unity. It spoke of a necessary convergence, not just of the 5 individuals gathered in the chamber, but of various factions, races, and individuals who were initially resistant to the idea of cooperation. The scroll described the Avatar's power to exploit divisions, its ability to sow discord and turn allies against one another. Overcoming this internal conflict would be as crucial to their success as their skill in battle. The prophecy stressed the absolute necessity of putting aside old grudges, past betrayals, and differing ideologies to create a unified front capable of facing the immense power of the Avatar. The path to victory, as described in the prophecy, was not a straightforward march to war, but a series of trials, a crucible that would test their strength, their resilience, and their determination to face challenges ahead. The air hung heavy with the scent of dust and decay, yet a strange, almost ethereal luminescence emanated from the chamber's depths. It was a vast cavern, its walls lined with shelves that stretched impossibly far into the shadows. Thousands, perhaps tens of thousands, of scrolls and books, bound in leather aged the color of dark chocolate and parchment, yellowed with time, filled the space. This was no ordinary library. It pulsed with a faint, magical energy, a silent hum that resonated deep within the bone. It felt less like a place of learning and more like a living entity, a repository of forgotten knowledge, whispering secrets to those who dared to listen. Orin, his eyes wide with wonder and a tremor of excitement in his voice, was the first to break. De silence. By the ancestors, he breathed, his gaze sweeping across the endless rows of ancient texts. This is beyond anything I could have imagined. He cautiously approached a shelf, running his hand along the spines of the books. The leather felt surprisingly supple beneath his touch, defying the centuries of darkness and neglect. Each volume seemed to hum with a faint energy, a silent testament to the potent magic contained within. Lyra, ever sensitive to magical currents, felt a wave of power wash over her. It wasn't the aggressive, chaotic energy of the Guardians they had faced earlier, but something far more profound, an ancient, slumbering power, both potent and peaceful, radiating from the books themselves. She could almost feel the weight of centuries of untold stories. Ta cause of forgotten voices whispering through the ages. A shiver ran down her spine, a mixture of awe and apprehension. Gribble, his normally impassive face etched with fascination, examined the structure of the shelves, noting the subtle architectural details that hinted at a sophisticated system of magical preservation. He touched a seemingly random book, and a soft, almost inaudible click echoed through the chamber. A hidden mechanism, a clever trap perhaps, or a magical safeguard. Meticulously examined each shelf, his keen eyes searching for patterns and hidden mechanisms. his fingers tracing the fine lines of the woodwork. His unique skill allowed them to navigate the library safely, identifying concealed traps or magical wards before they could spring. Gruck, despite his initial awe, remained vigilant. His large hands, normally clenched around his weapon, remained relaxed, but his eyes scanned the shadows constantly, alert for any sign of danger. He understood the power contained within the library. It was a treasure trove of knowledge, but it also represented a potential threat. If mishandled, his strength and presence provided a reassuring sense of security in this mystical space. Cyrus, ever the strategist, observed his companions, his mind already formulating a plan for their exploration. He saw the need for a methodical approach, a careful cataloging of the books, and a systematic search for the information they sought. The library was not merely a collection of texts. It was a battlefield of knowledge, and he intended to conquer it with meticulous precision. Orin, with the help of Gribble, began to carefully select texts, his ancient knowledge guiding his choices. He prioritized those volumes that seemed to speak of the verdant flame, the spear of Valrak, and the history of Eldoria. He worked methodically, slowly, carefully removing each book from its shelf, inspecting it with the respect it deserved. Each scroll, each text contained centuries of knowledge, a wealth of history awaiting rediscovery. The texts detailed the history of the verdant flame, not as simple warriors, but as powerful mages and guardians, imbued with an ancient power, protectors of Eldoria and the balance of their world. They described the verdant flame's intricate rituals, their understanding of the land's energies, and their mastery over powerful magic that allowed them to maintain the delicate balance between nature and arcane energies. Their history wasn't just a chronicle of battles and victories. It was a testament to their profound connection to the land and the immense responsibility, because it spoke of sacrifices that would have to be made, not only in terms of lives lost in battle, but also in terms of personal ambition, cherished ideals, and long-held beliefs. Prophecy hinted at a heavy personal cost associated with their quest, a price they would have to pay in order to overcome the ancient evil. The prophecy describes several key stages in their quest, each marked by significant challenges. The first would involve traversing the treacherous Whispering Woods, a place corrupted by the Avatar's touch, filled with twisted creatures and mind-bending illusions. The woods themselves were depicted as a psychological battlefield, a test of their mental fortitude and their ability to resist the Avatar's insidious influence. The prophecy warned of betrayals within their own ranks, suggesting that not everyone would prove worthy of the cause. The second stage involved seeking aid from the enigmatic Mountain Clan, a reclusive group who lived in isolation high atop the Dragon's Tooth's mountains. Their aid was crucial. The scroll revealed, as they possessed knowledge of ancient rituals and powerful artifacts that could significantly aid them in their fight. However, earning their trust and obtaining their assistance would require more than just skill in battle. They would need to prove their worthiness to the Mountain Clan through acts of selfless service and unwavering commitment. The third stage involved a confrontation with Melkor's remnant, a shadow of his former power, a malevolent force that had survived his demise. This entity, the scroll predicted, would attempt to manipulate them, exploit their fears and doubts, and potentially drive them to self-destruction. The prophecy described this confrontation not as a simple battle, but as a test of their souls. a challenge that required them to resist the whispers of temptation and maintain their unwavering focus on their objective. The final stage of their quest would be a direct confrontation with the Avatar of War itself, cataclysmic battle that would determine the fate of their world. The prophecy provided glimpses into the Avatar's strengths and weaknesses, highlighting potential strategies and tactical maneuvers that could lead to victory. But it also stressed that even with careful planning and strategic execution, the battle would be a desperate struggle for survival, a fight against overwhelming odds, a test of their unwavering resolve and their collective strength. As Lyra finished reading, a silence fell upon the group, the weight of the prophecy settling heavily upon them. The words were not merely a prediction, they were a roadmap, a blueprint for survival. The path ahead was fraught with danger, sacrifice, and immense peril, but it also held the promise of victory, the chance to save their world from annihilation. The prophecy, though ominous, offered a glimmer of hope, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, and a reminder that even against seemingly insurmountable odds, unity, courage, and unwavering resolve could prevail. The quest, no longer merely a search for a legendary spear, had transformed into a desperate race against time, a fight for the very survival of their world. The journey had only just begun, but with the revelation of the prophecy, the stakes had been raised exponentially. The weight of responsibility bore down on them, heavy but not crushing, fueling their determination to face the challenges ahead. The faintest tremor, barely perceptible at first, rippled through the very earth beneath their feet. It started subtly, a low hum that resonated deep within their bones, a discordant note in the otherwise silent aftermath of their victory. Then it escalated. The ground buckled, cracks spiderwebbing across the forge floor, spitting dust and debris into the air. The hum intensified, morphing into a guttural growl that seemed to tear the very fabric of reality. Lyra, still clutching the spear of Valrek, felt a surge of primal fear unlike anything she had ever experienced. The power emanating from the weapon, previously a source of awe and wonder, now felt insignificant, dwarfed by the immensity of the approaching terror. Borins. Normally, Compose's face was etched with grim determination, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fierce resolve. Even Grok, the indomitable brute, seemed momentarily subdued, a flicker of unease in his usually fierce gaze. Gribble's connection to nature pulsed wildly, his usually calm demeanor replaced by a palpable sense of unease. Cyrus, ever the pragmatist, silently drew his sword, his hand steady. Despite the tremors shaking the ground, the earth heaved, and from the chasm that had opened before them, a colossal figure emerged. It wasn't a creature of flesh and blood, but a monstrous embodiment of raw, untamed power. The Avatar of War. The creature was a spectacle of horrifying beauty. Its form was vaguely humanoid, yet grotesquely distorted. Twisted limbs of obsidian and flame writhed and shifted its torso, a churning maelstrom of dark energy crackling with lethal power. Its head, a skull of polished bone, adorned with jagged horns of solidified lightning, was framed by a mane of writhing shadows. Two burning eyes, like twin suns, blazing with malevolent intent, fixed upon the group. The Ha'ir crackled and shimmered around it, distorted by the sheer force of its presence. The Berry, itself seemed to scream in terror at its arrival. The Avatar's first act was not one of deliberate aggression, but a casual display of its devastating might. A wave of dark energy erupted from its form, washing over the landscape like a tide of destruction. Mountains crumbled, forests ignited, rivers evaporated, they ground. Beneath, the group trembled violently, throwing them off balance. The landscape, once breathtaking in its natural beauty, was transformed into a desolate wasteland within seconds. The once vibrant green of the valley floor was replaced by a scorched, blackened scar upon the face of the land. The group, battered and bruised from their earlier encounter with the Guardians, had to fight too, stay on their feet against the sheer force of the Avatar's power. This was not a mere physical threat. It was an assault on their very being, a crushing weight of despair that threatened to crush their spirits. They witnessed the desolation the Avatar wrought, witnessing the devastating consequences of its unrestrained power. Towns and villages were reduced to smoldering ruins, their inhabitants either incinerated or swallowed by the encroaching darkness. Despite the palpable terror, a flicker of defiance ignited within them. They had faced seemingly insurmountable odds before and emerged victorious. This was a battle for the survival of Thamir, for the very fate of their world. They would not falter. The realization of the true magnitude of the threat ignited a spark of unity. The news of the Avatar's devastating rampage spread like wildfire, transcending the boundaries of the various factions of Thalmia. Years of conflict and mistrust were overshadowed by the overwhelming sense of impending doom. The petty squabbles and rivalries that had once divided the land were swept away by the tide of a common enemy. From the far reaches of the kingdom, armies marched towards a single destination, a point where the Avatar had first manifested. Humans, elves, dwarves, and even the reclusive wood elves, all united under a single banner, their differences forgotten in the face of an enemy that threatened to erase them all. The unified forces of Thamir stood ready to face the Avatar, an army united in their goal to protect the realm against the imminent threat. Borin, despite the fear that gnawed at him, stood tall. His strategic mind raced, devising plans, calculating probabilities, seeking any advantage they could find. The spear of Valrek, while powerful, was not a guaranteed victory. The Avatar's power was almost incomprehensible, a force of nature unleashed. They needed a strategy that would exploit its weaknesses, if such weaknesses even existed. Lyra, clutching the spear tightly, felt its power surge within her, amplifying her own verdant flame. It resonated with the raw, untamed energy of the Avatar, a chilling connection that both frightened and emboldened her. She felt its destructive force, felt the potential it held to either heal the world or destroy it. She knew that her control over the spear and her mastery over the Bedanflam would be crucial to their chances of survival. Gribble felt the despair of nature herself, the pain of the scorched earth, the silent screams of the dying forests. His connection to the natural world was a double-edged sword. Felt the Avatar's destructive power as a violation, a desecration of all that was sacred. But he also saw the latent resilience of nature, the stubborn refusal to be completely vanquished. He felt the strength of the mountains, the tenacity of the forests, and the determined flow of the rivers. Ite was a fight not just for the people of Thalmia, but also a fight to protect the land itself. Gruk, for all his brutal strength, felt the weight of responsibility for the first time. Ab always fought for himself, for his people. Now, he fought for everyone. The Avatar's power was staggering, but Grook's rage burned even brighter. He would unleash all his fury, all his strength, upon the creature that threatened to destroy everything he knew. His axe, already stained with the blood of countless foes, was now sharpened with the purpose of defending not only his people, but the entire realm. Cyrus, the master swordsman, was a whirlwind of preparation, sharpening his blade, honing his skills, his heart filled with a grim determination. He knew that this was a battle unlike any other, a fight not against men, but against a force of pure, destructive chaos. He would dance with death, weaving between the Avatar's blows, finding openings for his allies to strike, protecting them whilst delivering calculated strikes to disrupt the Avatar's destructive power. Would be the shield, allowing others to strike the killing blows. As the united forces of Thalmia marshaled their strength, the Avatar unleashed its full might. The ground trembled, the sky darkened, and the very air itself seemed to weep with despair. The battle for Thalmia had begun, a desperate fight against a foe that embodied the very essence of war, a struggle for survival that would test the limits of their courage, their unity, and their unwavering determination. The clash between the Avatar of War and the united forces of Thamir was not just a battle for the fate of their world. It was a testament to the resilience of hope in the face of overwhelming despair. The gathering storm had arrived, and the war for the survival of Thamir was about to begin in earnest. The siege of Silverwood began not with a thunderous assault, but with a chilling silence. The Avatar of War, having laid waste to the surrounding countryside, now turned its gaze upon the city, a jewel nestled amongst rolling hills, its ancient walls shimmering like a silver river under it. The oppressive, ash-laden sky. This wasn't a mindless rampage. This was a calculated siege. Slow, agonizing strangulation designed to break the spirit of the defenders before a single blow. Was Strook. Silverwood, renowned for its masterful defenses and strategic importance, was a choke point, controlling vital trade routes and resource-rich territories. Its fall would cripple Thamir's ability resist the Avatar's advance, opening the way for the annihilation of the remaining kingdoms. The city's defenders, a diverse coalition of human soldiers, elven archers, dwarven engineers, and the rarely seen wood elves, stood ready, their numbers bolstered by the newly formed United Army. The first assault was psychological, a wave of dark energy, smaller than the initial devastation, but no less chilling, periodically washed over the city walls, causing tremors that rattled the very foundations of the ancient stonework. Buildings crumbled, terrified citizens huddled in their homes, the rhythmic crashes and screams, a constant, nerve-shredding backdrop to the siege. The Avatar didn't need to storm the walls. It merely had to chip away at their resolve. Lyra, utilizing her mastery of the verdant flame and the spear of Valrek, worked tirelessly alongside the elven archers, bolstering their defenses. Her flame, imbued with the spear's power, created shimmering shields of emerald light, deflecting the Avatar's energy blasts and providing cover for Their wounded, she pushed back against the despair that threatened to consume the defenders. Her presence, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. Orin, ever the strategist, orchestrated the defense from within the city walls. His keen eyes observed every movement of the Avatar, analyzing its patterns, searching for any sign of weakness. He directed the dwarven engineers, who used their skill and ingenuity to erect countermeasures against the Avatar's assaults, creating ingenious traps and defenses that temporarily diverted its attacks, providing precious moments of respite. Gribble, the nature wielder, found himself in the midst of a devastating battle. His connection to the natural world was being tested as he sought to harness its strength. He could feel the pain of the shattered earth, the dying forests, but also the resilience of nature's unwavering spirit. Worked with the wood elves, channeling the healing power of the forest into the injure, while simultaneously unleashing the fury of nature itself in carefully calculated attacks, conjuring vines to ensnare the Avatar's advancing shadow creatures, summoning storms of leaves and thorns to blind and disorient. Its assault forces, Gruk, his axe dripping with the blood of lesser demons summoned by the Avatar, was a force of nature himself, a whirlwind of fury in the heart of the battle. He led the vanguard, a bulwark of unwavering strength against the relentless onslaughts, smashing through ranks of shadowy creatures and repelling the dark energy with sheer brute force, providing a vital counter to Avatar's overwhelming power. Cyrus, with his elegant, almost balletic swordsmanship, danced between the Avatar's attacks, deflecting blows, providing cover for the archers, and creating openings for Grook's attacks. He was more than just a warrior. He was the heart of the defense, his precision and unwavering determination bolstering the spirits of his comrades. The city's defenses held, not by superior firepower, but by their unwavering unity and their diverse skill sets. Each member of the group played a crucial role, their strengths complementing each other, creating a synergistic defense that surprised even the most seasoned commanders. The combined might of Lyra's verdant flame, Orin's strategic brilliance, Gribble's connection to nature, Grook's brute force, and Cyrus' precise sword, supported by the unified strength of Thalmia's diverse armies, formed an impenetrable fortress. The siege raged 4 days, a relentless onslaught of dark energy and monstrous creatures, countered by the defenders' unwavering resolve and ingenious strategies. The walls of Silverwood stood scarred but unbroken, the city's spirit defiant. The Avatar's attacks became more erratic, its frustration growing with each failed attempt. The siege was a test of endurance, a brutal dance between overwhelming power and unwavering defiance. The nights were filled with the sounds of battle, the clash of steel, the roar of Grook's rage, the cries of the injured. Lyra's verdant flame burned brightly, a beacon of hope against the encroaching darkness. The earth trembled beneath the Avatar's fury, but the defenders stood firm, their spirits fueled by a unified purpose, their resolve strengthened by each shared struggle, each shared victory. Orin's meticulous planning, honed through countless battles, paid off. He identified a weakness in the Avatar's defenses, a temporary lapse in its energy field during its most powerful attacks. It was a minuscule window of opportunity, but enough for a decisive strike. The plan was daring, dangerous, and required perfect coordination. Lyra, using the spear of Valrak, would focus the combined energy of the verdant flame, aided by Greibel's harnessing of nature's strength, creating a devastating blast that would exploit the temporary weakness. Gruk and Cyrus would provide the distraction, a coordinated assault designed to draw the Avatar's attention, while Lyra executed her plan. The moment arrived. The Avatar unleashed its most devastating attack yet, a torrent of dark energy that threatened to obliterate the city. Simultaneously, Gruk and Cyrus launched their assault, a maelstrom of steel and rage that drew the Avatar's focus. In that fleeting moment, Lyra unleashed her attack. The Avatar recoiled from Lyra's devastating blow, its form flickering like a dying ember. The dark energy that had shrouded it momentarily dissipated, revealing a grotesque form of immense power and terrifying beauty. Its eyes, twin pools of molten obsidian, burned with fury and pain. But even in its wounded state, the creature exuded an aura of raw, destructive power, palpable threat that chilled the very bones of the defenders. A hush fell over the battlements. The cacophony of war subsided, replaced by a tense silence, punctuated only by the ragged breaths of the exhausted warriors and the Avatar's low, guttural growls. Even Gruk, ever the whirlwind of fury, stood frozen, his massive axe held loosely at his scythe, his gaze fixed on the wounded behemoth. The victory felt hollow, fragile, overshadowed by the lingering threats of the Avatar's immense power. Then, from the heart of the city, a figure emerged. Velyan, the ancient warrior mage, his face etched with a profound sadness, yet his eyes burning with unwavering resolve. A Garriet, no weapon, only a staff carved from ancient heartwood, pulsating with a faint, ethereal glow with a grace that belied his age, his steps measured and deliberate, each one imbued with a power that seemed to transcend the physical realm. As he approached the battlefield, a low hum resonated from his staff, growing in intensity with each step. The ground beneath his feet trembled, and the very air seemed to vibrate with an almost unbearable energy. The defenders watched, awestruck, as Valyan approached the Avatar, his every movement imbued with a sense of quiet, profound determination. This war ends today. Valyan's voice echoed across the battlefield, his words carrying a weight that transcended the din of battle, silencing even the Avatar's enraged growls. His voice was a low rumble, but it held a power that commanded attention, a resonance that spoke of ancient wisdom and untold sacrifices. The Avatar turned its gaze upon him, its obsidian eyes narrowing. A low growl emanated from its chest, a sound that shook the very foundations of silver. It sensed the power radiating from Valion, the immense energy coiled within the ancient mage, an energy that mirrored its own, but possessed a purity, a righteousness that the Avatar could not comprehend. Valion raised his staff, and the ethereal glow intensified, transforming into a blinding emerald light that pushed back the encroaching darkness. The air crackled with energy, the scent of ozone filling the air as he began to channel his power, a process that visibly drained him, lines of exhaustion etching deeper into his weathered face. He wasn't merely fighting the Avatar, he was fighting against something far older, far darker, something that threatened to consume the very essence of their world. He wasn't drawing upon mere magical power. He was tapping into the very life force of the land, drawing upon the ancient energies woven into the very fabric of Tamir. The earth seemed to groan under the strain, Trees swayed violently, and the wind howled a mournful day. Vibrant green light emanating from his staff pulsed with an intense energy, a manifestation of the land's strength, drawn out by Velian's immense will and sacrifice. The Avatar, sensing the true nature of Velian's power, reacted with a ferocity that transcended its previous fury. It unleashed a torrent of dark energy, aiming to overwhelm the ancient mage before he could unleash the full force of his power. But Velion stood firm, his staff held aloft, his body radiating a light that pushed back against the overwhelming tide of darkness. The conflict wasn't a clash of weapons, it was a collision of worlds, a struggle between the light and darkness, hope and despair. The clash of energies created a blinding flash, followed by a deafening roar that reverberated across the land. The very ground trembled, and the sky above, Silverwood, was filled with swirling vortexes of light and shadow. Then, silence. The blinding light faded, revealing a scene of profound devastation. Te. Avatar stood, weakened but not defeated, its dark energy flickering, its form less imposing. Valion, however, was gone. Only a faint, ethereal glow remained where he had stood, a testament to the magnitude of his sacrifice. The silence was broken by the collective gasp of the defenders. The weight of Valian's sacrifice hung heavy in the air, a palpable grief that threatened to overwhelm their hard-won victory. Lyra, her face streaked with tears and soot, lowered the spear of Valrek, its emerald glow dimmed. Gribble's connection to nature lay shattered, the forest groaning under the strain of Valiant's sacrifice. Even Gruk, usually an embodiment of unstoppable fury, stood silent, his face a mask of grief and stunned disbelief. Cyrus, ever the paragon of control, could only watch, his usual elegant movements frozen, his eyes wide with shock, and a deep, unfathomable sorrow. The silence stretched on, a suffocating blanket of grief and loss. Yet, in the midst of this profound sorrow, a new resolve took hold. Valiant's sacrifice had weakened the Avatar, buying them precious time. But more importantly, it had galvanized the defenders. They had witnessed the ultimate act of selflessness, a testament to the unwavering commitment to peace and the ultimate sacrifice for their homeland. Borin, ever the strategist, stepped forward, his voice steady despite the turmoil within him. Wei will not let his sacrifice be in vain, he declared, his voice resonating with a newfound determination. The Avatar is weakened. Now we strike. The renewed attack was not fueled by rage, but by a deep sense of purpose, a shared commitment to honor Valiant's memory. The unified army of Thalmia, inspired by the ancient mage's sacrifice, fought with a renewed vigor and a shared resolve that transcended their individual fears and grief. The Avatar, weakened and vulnerable, met their assaults with a diminished intensity, its attacks less frequent, less power. The fight continued, but the tide had finally turned. The victory, though hard-won and bought at a terrible cost, now felt within their grasp. Valiant's sacrifice hadn't merely weakened the Avatar, it had strengthened the spirit of Thalmia, forging an unbreakable bond between its diverse peoples. The fight for their survival continued, but now it was a fight fueled by hope, by the memory of a selfless warrior, and by a unity forged in the crucible of a devastating war. The echoes of Valiant's sacrifice would resonate through the ages, a reminder of the true cost of peace and the enduring power of unity in the face of overwhelming adversity. The victory would be theirs, bought with the blood and tears of countless warriors, but most profoundly, with the ultimate sacrifice of a hero whose selfless act would forever be etched in the annals of Thamir's history. The Siege of Silverwood would ultimately mark not only a turning point in the war, but a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit and the profound power of unity against insurmountable odds. The silence following Valiant's sacrifice was a heavy shroud pressing down on the defenders of Silverwood. The air hung thick with the scent of ozone and the lingering taste of ash, a stark reminder of the cataclysmic clash that had just transpired. Yet, amidst the grief and the devastation, a flicker of hope ignited. Boren's words, resolute and unwavering, had cut through the despair, rekindling the fire of defiance in the hearts of the weary warriors. Lyra, still clutching the spear of Valrak, felt the weight of Valiant's sacrifice pressing down on. Yet the spear, usually a beacon of vibrant emerald light, now pulsed with a subdued luminescence, mirroring the somber mood that had settled over the battlefield. Energy thrumming through her, once a source of overwhelming power, felt strangely depleted, reflection of the exhaustion that gnawed at her very being. Yet she knew she couldn't falter. Alien's sacrifice demanded that they continue, that they finish what he had started. Gribble, his connection to the forest weakened, felt the trees around him groaning in sympathy. The vibrant pulse of the woodland, usually a source of strength and solace, was mute reflection of the land's sorrow. Yet, even in his weakened state, he felt a surge of determination. He knew he had to use the remaining strength of the forest, every last whisper of its ancient power, to aid his comrades. The forest would rise again, but for now, it was theirs to command. One final act of defiance against the encroaching darkness. Gruk, his usually boisterous nature subdued, felt the weight of loss more profoundly than he ever thought possible. The Avatar, though weakened, still held a terrifying power. Yet Gruk, with his axe held high, felt a surge of resolve. He would honor Valiant's memory, not by grief, but by action. His roars, usually a terrifying war cry, were replaced by a low growl, a fierce determination tempered by the solemnity of the moment. He knew that this final battle would demand more than just brute strength. It would require a unity of purpose that transcended individual strength. Cyrus, normally the epitome of controlled grace, felt the tremor of shock resonate through his body. He had witnessed countless battles, but nothing prepared him for the sheer magnitude of Valiant's sacrifice. The sorrow threatened to overwhelm him, but he forced himself to remain steadfast, his eyes focused on the weakened Avatar. His sword, usually a blur of controlled movements, now felt heavy in his hand, a symbol of his resolve. He knew that their victory hung in the balance, a precarious victory built upon a foundation of sacrifice. The Avatar, sensing the shift in the tide, roared its defiance. Its form, though diminished, still pulsed with an ominous aura. The dark energy that had once completely shrouded it now flickered intermittently, revealing grotesque features and a terrifying Eat, attack, unleashing a torrent of shadow and dark magic. A last desperate attempt to secure its dominion over Dalmia. Blow. But the defenders were ready. This wasn't a desperate last stand. This was a calculated assault, fueled by a shared grief and a unified purpose. Lyra, leading the charge, moved with a newfound precision. The spear of Valrak, though weakened, still held a power that transcended its diminished glow. Each thrust, each parry, was infused with the spirit of alien sacrifice, a powerful reminder of the cost of freedom. Say, moved through the dark energy blasts with practice's grace, her movements a symphony of skill and precision. Her spear, her deadly dance against the encroaching darkness. Gribble, drawing upon the remaining strength of the forest, channeled the earth's energy, sending tremors through the ground that disrupted the Avatar's footing. The trees, though weakened, seemed to respond to his call, their branches thrashing wildly, creating a chaotic field of defense that hampered the Avatar's advance. Roots snaked out from the ground, tripping the creature's dart forcing it to stagger and momentarily lose its balance. The forest, even in its wounded state, refused to surrender. Gruk, a whirlwind of furious strikes, slammed his axe against the Avatar's weakened form, unleashing a flurry of attacks. His strikes, usually a chaotic display of uncontrolled fury, exhibited a chilling precision. He moved with a calculated ferocity, each blow targeted at the creature's most vulnerable points, exploiting the weaknesses revealed by Valiant's sacrifice. Fought with the controlled rage of a man driven by grief and a burning desire for vengeance. Cyrus, a master of strategy and precise movements, moved with a deadly his sword sang a deadly song as he weaved and parried, cutting through the Avatar's dark energy with calculated ease. He fought not with blind rage, but with cold, calculated precision. His attack aimed at disrupting the Avatar's already diminished defenses. His movements were a precise dance of death, weaving a deadly web around the wounded beast. Orin, coordinating the assault with his usual strategic brilliance, directed the army's movements, ensuring that each attack was precise and effective. His voice, calm and reassuring amidst the chaos, guided the army's assault. His commands, sharp and clear. He observed, battled with a cool, calculating mind, adjusting the strategy to counter the Avatar's desperate attacks. Orin ensured that every warrior knew their role and fought with a combined strength that surprised even himself. The battle raged, a symphony of steel on shadow, of magic and brute force. The air was thick with the clash of weapons, the roar of the Avatar, and the battle cries of the defenders. But the tide had turned. The Avatar, weakened and beset on all sides, fought with a diminished ferocity. Its attacks were less frequent, less powerful, its dark energy flickering erratically. The defenders, united by grief and a common purpose, fought with a newfound strength, their attacks fueled by Valiant's sacrifice. Finally, with a final, concerted assault, the defenders overwhelmed the Avatar. Lyra's spear of Valrak found its mark, piercing the creature's weakened form. Gribble's earth magic surged, binding the Avatar as a dark energy, trapping it in the earth. Grook's axe landed a crushing blow, shattering the creature's defenses. Cyrus's sword danced through the air, severing the creature's connection to the dark energies that fueled it. Silence descended upon the battlefield, a silence far different from the heavy shroot that had preceded the final confrontation. This was a silence filled with the quiet relief of hard-won victory, the solemn understanding of the price paid, and a profound appreciation for the unity that had secured their survival. The siege of Silverwood was over. The avatar of war was defeated. Thalmia was safe, but the cost, the echoes of alien sacrifice, would forever resonate within the hearts of its people. The victory, though sweet, was tempered with an enduring sadness, a solemn reminder of the price of freedom. Yet, in the midst of the sorrow, a new hope blossomed, a shared hope born from unity, resilience, and the enduring memory of a hero who sacrificed all for his people. The last glimpse of Thalmia, while peaceful, wasn't just some naive daydream. It painted Alto, picture of a place always reaching for peace, fully aware of the lurking threats of conflict. As the sun dipped below the horizon once again, its warm rays fell on a city that stood tall not out of blind faith, but from a deep-seated commitment to safeguard the peace they had fought so hard to achieve. Sure, the future was still a bit hazy, but the Emerald Alliance was ready to tackle whatever kept their why. Here why they were tightly knit, not just by shared experiences, but by their unyielding spirit and a collective hope for a better tomorrow. You could hear the children playing, their joyful laughter ringing through the heart of the city, a powerful reminder of unity, shining brightly even as shadows began to creep in. And let's be real, the Emerald Alliance was more than just a political group. It was a living symbol of what the human spirit can accomplish, a beacon of unity and hope in a world that really needed it. The road to get here hadn't been easy. It came at a price, but still, they planted the seeds of hope. And you know what? Those seeds were bound to blossom.